realizing that, okay, now I'm single again, or I'm single again with two kids, I'm single again with a kid, I'm single again with three, four, five kids. What am I going to do?
Thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations on your 10th
Thank
season as
you.
well. Yeah,
Thank
finish hard.
you.
Actually,
We
when I
hope we
came to
do.
StreamYard, I didn't know there was a whole world on StreamYard. So I said, oh, I've been missing out on this one. So yeah, I'm glad I came on and
It's
they have this
funny. Yeah.
collaboration that you can partake of. So I'm
Yeah.
very excited about that.
Yeah.
And the partnership I can build on that platform too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting to know that there is a collaborative world where you could, meet people with like minds. And I'm glad we met and we connected and we're collaborating. That's fine.
Yeah. So we're going to jump right in. I think couple of was it last week or maybe the week before that? Well, actually last year. Last year I did holidays and the stresses that comes with the holidays with Dr. Shedrick. It was very good. This year, of course, the time skipped me, so I wasn't able to do it before Thanksgiving. So I'm glad we haven't this today. I know when the holidays comes up, it comes up with its own demons.
Stress.
Yes, it comes with its own demons. I think today's sermon, the pastor even mentioned it. I'm trying to remember what he said. Yeah, I think it's normal, or I wouldn't say it's normal, but I think it's on the forefront of everybody's thinking this holidays. That not everybody looks forward to the holidays for
Absolutely.
whatever reason. And so I'm very glad that you have a niche that you address with the holidays and that you give coping skills for people that you specialize in or you have experience with for the holidays. So I'm very excited to have you tonight. If anybody is watching for the first time, I would like for you to introduce yourself and, of course, what you do. Tell us your platform or where we can follow you on social media. If you want to do that later, that's fine. But I think I want to go straight into our topic for today. I think I had put a topic. Coping skills of combating, I think I said combating holiday stresses and depression um, in our lives.
Mm.
So, whichever way, I always say my platform is conversational. So, it's not like an interview where I'll ask a question and somebody will answer. It's very conversational. So, however you want to attack it, from a perspective of a single parent or somebody going through divorce or somebody just at empty nester. There are so many empty nesters. So this holiday may be the first time all the kids are out of home. Of course, when we grow, we don't want to come back home. When we
Yeah.
turn 18, we are ready to get out. And so, whichever way you want to address this, but if you are watching this broadcast either on TikTok, Facebook, or YouTube, you can comment below some of your coping skills that you use these holidays, or even where in your life you are at right now, because I know we all face stress is different. Our background can affect how we address our stress or how we handle it. Our religion, our beliefs, everything contributes to how we handle our own stresses and depression. And so comment below and let us know how you handle your stress or how you handle your depression.
That's fine.
So, yes, however you want to address or tackle this topic, you can tell us a little bit about either being single this season, being an empty nester, um, however you want to attack it. And also, if you can give us some coping skills, how we can navigate these holidays.
Thank you so much for having me, Sewa. I have to say that. But I would like to start by introducing myself, just in case you know.
Hmm.
My name is Omolola. Um, I'm still bearing Adekoya, but my soon to be legal name will be Festus Adedayo. So everybody out there can just call me LFA. I am a social worker by training, and professionally, I, do pick up some therapy job here and there, and that's one of the things I love about being a social worker. It's you're able to teach people, motivate, encourage. You're able to advocate, and it's been a journey. And I find myself single again, not by any fault of mine. I wouldn't say I was 100%, free, but my friends would tell me to own it. That I was a
Mm,
good wife when I was married, so I want to own that. I gave it my best, but it didn't work out. So, like I told my kids, I was fired. I was
mm,
fired from the job, which makes it easier for me to accept. But that's actually going through that experience of being single again made me sat down, experiencing everything that I went through and imagining other women out there, especially in our African community, that is going through such but cannot come out and express themselves.
mm,
So, you know, praying and meditating on so many things, listening to people talk, people calling me to ask me questions about this, about that. And it's so funny, like when I was in my relationship that is soon to be legally ended, which has ended, but soon to be legally ended, people will call and ask me and seek my opinion on issues that I was going through.
mm,
And they never knew I was going through it. It's ironical. And I would, from my own personal perspective and sincerely from what I am doing at that time to cope, will make suggestions, will give advice, will
mhm,
motivate and encourage people. A lot of them, when they knew eventually that I was going through that, were like, "What? You were actually going through that?" A friend of mine would say, "You wear it so well. Nobody would know you're going through this." And I just want to say, it's not by my strength. I give God all the glory. I
mm.
am a child of God. I believe so much in God, and I depend on Him for everything I do.
That's good.
Technically, everything.
That's good.
Yeah. So my podcast is Single Again with LFA and Barb, and I also do a mother's burden. My handle can be found on YouTube, A Mother's Burden with Omolola, where we talk about raising multicultural children in the United States
Mm,
and creating support community for Nigerian American parents or African American generally, of African descent. You know what I meant by that
mhm,
generally.
mhm.
So when we talk, we rub minds about different issues, different title, just different topics that kids can just come up, and how do we manage it, how do we maneuver it. And Single Again is a community to support single again women that found themselves in that boat, not by their own doing, but they just found themselves there. And of course, widows as well, and widowers. We just want to rub mind
Yeah.
and share experience and support ourselves, because it's not an easy journey. That's something I noticed.
Mm,
And I would go back to combating the holiday stressors in our life, especially as a single again woman and mother. I have two wonderful children. I cannot ask for anything else but those kids. I tell you, I am blessed and I'm grateful to God.
that's good.
The first year, I think, was honestly, it was kind of rough. The first year was kind of rough because I moved out. I think I moved out a year and some month ago, and I wasn't even thinking of Christmas. I wasn't even thinking of Thanksgiving. But then Thanksgiving was falling on me, and I
Mm,
just figured, like, okay, what can I do differently? Like I wanted to do something different to start a new tradition. That was my thought when I came round. And I just thought, okay, why don't I just invite my families? I've never done that. Invite family over and you have the kids around. And my family came over, we had fun. It was fun. I was grateful that they were there. And that was for Thanksgiving. And there come Christmas was falling
mm,
on me again. And honestly, I have to say that that was the very first year that I spent Christmas as a single again woman.
Mm,
Prior my getting married to my children's father, yes, of course, you celebrate Christmas alone, but you go to friends and you didn't really feel like you were alone.
mm-hmm.
Then you got married, and yeah, it's a family
A whole new
thing.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, we're putting up the Christmas tree, we're putting the
Mm-hmm.
gift under the trees and all of that. Wrapping the gift alone. Usually at night, when the kids all go to bed, Santas will sit up and, you know, act as the elves and drink the milk and eat the cookie. And while we're doing that, we're chit chatting, playing music, waiting for Santa to come and put
Mm-hmm.
the gift under the tree. So the first year was kind of different, not hugely different, because of course I would be the one that would wrap the gift.
Mm-hmm.
And lately, before we separated, he would just leave me downstairs like, hey, I have to go and sleep, or oh, you're on your own. And I'm like, that's fine. And sometimes he would kind of like, oh, be in his home office doing this stuff while, I'm wrapping the gift. So, but I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. Santa is real for those that still believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
you know, of course, we all know who Santas are. So it was kind of emotional for me, imagining I had to toughen it up, but I was imagining like, oh, by this time last year we were doing this together, you know, and now it was just me, and
Mm-hmm.
had to, you have to think about the finances. Your financial status shifted, from having so much to having a little, and you
Yeah.
have to budget around that, and you don't want the kids to feel like, oh, maybe you made a wrong decision to leave,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you shouldn't have left. Maybe, my kids, I didn't think they were thinking that, but that was me thinking about it like, okay,
Of course.
I have to get them this, I want to make them comfortable, I want to give
Mm-hmm.
them what they need,
Yeah.
you know And so it was, I think, right after Thanksgiving, I have to start looking. I am no one for Black Friday. That's not my thing. I
Mm-hmm.
honestly am no one for Black Friday. But I have to start looking. I have to start saving towards the Christmas gift. I have to start checking off my list and minding my finances. I don't want to go overboard. I don't want to owe. I don't want to pay debt after Christmas. I don't want to owe credit card debt. I just, want to live within our means. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's it eventually fell in place, got them what they wanted. Everybody was happy. We started a new tradition.
That's
Christmas
good.
morning, we don't go to church now. We, wake up, everybody wake up. We have breakfast, have cups of tea. I'm a black tea person in the morning. We'll have tea and then sit on the dining table, chit chat with the kids, and then go to the Christmas tree, and we'll open a gift.
Mm.
You and the kids also got me a gift, and they were really, it was really emotional, honestly, because they were so appreciative of it.
Yeah.
And they observed, they knew it was different, but they were like, this is good different,
Mm.
you know
That's good. That's
and
good.
yeah, and it was kind of like, oh, if he was around, but I had to toughen it up, like, okay, he's not around. We have to do this. And it wasn't easy, but we were able to cope through it.
That's good. I'm
And
glad you did.
yes, yes. And I always say something, I think most Africans are resilient.
Mm.
However, we sort of kind of toughen things up and kind of, just swallow it and keep it moving. But I think my vulnerability really helped me at that time. I made my kids realize that, hey, this is not going to be easy. You know, you guys may not get what you really wanted,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not sure, Santa is kind of broke this year, you know.
That's right.
Yeah. And Santa is, we're just coming out from the pandemic, and Santa is trying to
Mhm.
put,
Yeah.
things around, and, but honestly, I think what's really kept me going was knowing that I had, and I still have my kids. We
Mm,
have friends and family that were always checking in on us,
that's good.
and we'll call, and we'll be like, you guys okay? Okay, we'll stop by. And
Mhm.
I want to say it's been God's grace. I know some people may be like, okay, no, don't let us go all spiritual. It's not always that easy. Yes, it is not always that easy. I am not one that is all, I will give all the glory to God, but at the same
Mhm.
time, we live on earth,
That's
and He's
true.
giving us, opportunity to either make right decisions or wrong
Yeah.
decisions.
I
Yeah,
think I always say, as much as we believe in God, He never comes from up there to do things for us. We
that's
still
right.
have to put in the work. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
applaud you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah.
And He gave us the grace to be able to do that.
Mhm.
And I think I tried with the help of people around me. And I
That's
think
good.
what really, really took me through that time was my vulnerability one. I
Mhm.
was open. I was not sucking everything in.
Mhm.
I was able to talk with people. I have a huge support system. That's
Mhm.
another
That's good.
thing. So if you are a single mom, single dad out there that's experiencing this for the first time, and the holiday stress, yes, it can be stressful, especially around this time, emotionally. It's stressful physically, but you have to think of, oh, before it used to be both of us pulling resources together and what they want. Now it's
Mhm.
just me. So I have to do this for them. And I don't want them to feel like, oh, maybe you shouldn't have left, or
Mhm.
oh, maybe you should have just stayed, or why don't you call him? Why don't you do this? So a huge support network is very important, because sometimes they cover up for you,
Mhm. True.
you know, they cover up for you. And I always remember to take a breather. I always
Very
remember to just
important.
push the pause button, like, okay, I'm going crazy now. Pause. Now let's rewind.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Like
rewind.
you said. Hmm.
So
But
I
I think I'm going to insert this in here. You know, I'm a social worker myself.
yeah, you told me.
So I know our ethics has been pushing a lot of self
So
care this past couple of years since the
yes,
pandemic. But I think it's very important, like you mentioned, um, especially coming from Africa. Yes, we are resilient because of where we're coming from.
yeah.
We know what hard life is.
Oh yes, we do.
But at the
I've been
same
there.
time, I think, like you said, owning your vulnerability. I think there are times we don't speak up. And so we feel like, and I know why some people don't feel up. I am one of those people who used to not speak up. And that's because I've always been the strong face for any and everyone. And so I felt like, well, nobody thinks I can break. So why present that I can break? I'm the superwoman. And so I think that's something that we have to put in our mind. We are human. We can't do everything and anything. And I admire that you have your own tradition now. And I think one thing that we don't think of when there are kids in a relationship or even when raising kids, they are very observant. They may not be able to say something whilst going through the process, but they are very observant. And I think God has given the minds enough that if you're able to explain to them, hey, this is the situation now, we have to make the best out of it. And so, mommy is going to come up with a new tradition. This is how our Christmas is going to be from now on. Instead of getting Santa come to our house, we're rather going to be Santas for other people. So coming up with ways that we don't put ourselves in this box. Of course, during Christmas, everybody is expecting gifts and the food, the family. Well, sometimes it's not, those things don't come to us, some of us anymore. We find ourselves, families falling apart, either jobs, because of jobs, we are finding ourselves on different parts of the world and all these things. So now, right now that we are in 2023, this is mom's life. And so mom is going to create her own tradition. And this is how it's going to be this year.
Yeah,
And
and like you said it, yes, self-care is very important because I remember when we left, I had to join a gym. I told myself I need to, continue to be in shape. And going to the gym helped somewhat because you're busy doing an activity that's taking your mind off whatever it's processing at that time. You're paying attention to something else. Cognitively, we're trying to reprocess
mhm,
and reorganize our thoughts. And in the process of, I was engaged in yoga. I do yoga, and I find out that yoga is like calming to me.
mm,
I find this peace every time I go, even though I wasn't faithful or consistent with it, but I find peace,
yeah,
stretching, doing all the moves and just being in the moment, which is something that is difficult for mothers, I would say, and for women. I think a lot of women, it's difficult for us to be in the moment because you're thinking of this, you're thinking of that, you you're just everywhere. They call it multitasking, but I think it's more than multitasking. Honestly, you know. And I yoga, I go to gym, I kind of like dancing. I can just be in my room playing music and just dancing. I
that's
look,
good.
I enjoy doing things like that because
Yeah.
that is my moment.
Mm,
And I pray a lot.
that's good.
Oh Lord, I can just sit down and I'll just be talking with him as if he's just there with me. And yes, he's always there with me. Like I can see him and I can just pour out my heart to him,
Mm,
you know. And I started therapy. I was seeing a therapist.
that's good.
I made sure the kids are also seeing a therapist, which really
Mhm,
helped me to see things from a different perspective. And I remembered there was a time in therapy, my therapist was like, "Are you being superficial?" Because you're also a therapist yourself. So I
yeah.
had to honestly, that was like a haha moment for me, like, okay, because it was something I was thinking before that session. And when we went in the session, and he just raised an observation like, okay, you seem to be spot on. Are you being superficial because you're also a therapist and you know what to
Mhm,
say, or
yeah.
it's coming from within?
Yeah.
And I didn't just say, oh no, it's coming from within. I was like, wow, that's a good thing that,
Mhm,
let me process that and really, ruminate and be sure that it's coming from within,
mhm,
because that is very important.
it is.
You have to be sure that when you are sharing with people, you're not sharing superficially. You're not telling people what they want to hear. You're really engaging from within
Mm,
because it's therapeutic. It helps, you know. It helps to know that this is my feelings.
mhm.
I am on the other side of the table. I can now oh, okay, this is what I'm
Somebody is
feeling.
listening.
Yes, I feel like pulling my hair. I feel like
Mm,
punching myself. I feel like this. I'm, labeling the emotions,
mm,
saying it as is, you know. And I remember going back to the next session and I told him, like, you really made me do a deep soul searching. And
that's
I'm not
good.
being superficial. Like, this is how I am feeling.
Mm,
Because in all of this, and I think another thing that made it less stressful for me was I was at a place of forgiveness. I was at a place where I forgave myself and I forgave him. Even though you still remember, but I was at a place of forgiveness. I was at a place where I am praying and asking God to give me the grace and the strength to
mm,
forgive myself and to forgive him, you know. And I think all of those really helped me cope and to understand that you don't just yell at the children. Every small thing will anger you. The
Mm,
stress of the money you're going to spend on gift, the stress of the money you're going to spend on buying cards and calling and texting, and you're paying the bills and you're doing all of this. It's annoying. It's, you know, but realizing that they are kind of like in the, I don't know if I will make sense with this, but it's like you being in the in the right place but at the wrong time.
mm, yeah.
So they are in the right environment, they are with the right people, but with the wrong time in the people's life, not in their life, you know. So at that time, honestly, at that time, all I was doing is I just want my kids to be happy. I want them to have the best holiday season that they can
Mm-hmm.
experience. And I want them to remember that first experience for the rest of their life, you know, and to know that this is different. I don't want it to be as usual. No, it's no longer business as usual. Something has shifted and we
Yeah.
have to create it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So having a creative mind also is a form of coping mechanism. And like you said, Santa does not have to come to us. We can go out to Santa and be Santa to other people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and be little elves and help Santa put a smile on other people's faces.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I always tell my kids. Like, you should be grateful you have a mother. You should be grateful you have roof over your head. There are so
Mm-hmm.
many kids out there this season, they sleep on the street. They don't have roof over their head. Nobody will buy them gift. So you should be grateful for the little things that you have.
Mm,
You know. So that also helped having a gratitude mindset, you know, being vulnerable and not being superficial, but
yeah.
being, you know, open
Yeah.
and sincere, you know, from the depth, and
Mm,
carrying your kids along if kids are involved. If kids are not involved, that's a little bit easier. It's not easy. I'm not undermining the experience, but you know, the factor of the kids are not there. You're
yeah.
worrying about just yourself,
Yeah.
you know. So
That's
all
true.
of those I think helped me meditating, yoga, praying, reading the Bible. And I have to say, it is not all bed of roses. I'm still in it. I'm still experiencing it. The holidays around the corner, and I'm cracking my head now. Like, if I tell you what my son wants, is ridiculous. I don't even want to think about what he
Of
wants.
course, of course, they're going to come up with a whole list of wish lists.
He is something else. His sister is like, look, you know what I want? Just chapstick, lip gloss, and you know, he
That's
is like,
easy.
I want a PC, I want a laptop, and I want a bicycle. And I'm like, okay, Santa has to. We have to have a meeting with Santa. Like, no, you know. So we created fun out of the whole situation.
Mm,
I am somebody that laugh with and at myself.
mm,
When I remember some things, I just laugh at it. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that.
mm,
And at the same time, I am saying, thank you, Lord, I went through that because I
yeah.
learned from it.
Yeah.
I don't see every opportunity as a disappointment. I see it as an opportunity for me to learn something and
Mm,
empower myself and use that to advocate for others and be
mm-hmm.
the voice for others that they can't come out and speak for
Yeah.
themselves. Like, I can be the voice for this and I can help people advocate and solicit and motivate, encourage people, you know, to be the best of themselves. Life
Mm,
does not end with being unmarried. No, marriage is not everything. You can be unmarried and be the happiest. And I would tell you,
that's
I am the
true.
happiest I am.
Mm,
We just had Thanksgiving and I invited a few friends and family over. Actually, one of my friends said, you're coming over for Thanksgiving. I wasn't planning on doing anything. I'm like, okay, why not? You know, and she was like, oh, what do we bring? I tell you, everybody chipped in. What I just did was just did the turkey and just some mild cooking and decided to bless them with an African delicacy soup, and that was it, you know. And one of my, I call her like a big sister. She has two kids. When I came into the country, they were really little, and now they're young ladies. And she called and she said, "Do you know what your sister said?" I said, "What?" She said, "They've never seen you this happy."
Uh,
And honestly, that meant a lot to me. Like,
mm,
and I knew it. I am the happiest for it.
that's good.
I
That's
am the
good.
happiest for it. I'm not regretting that I ever married the father of my children.
Mm,
And I am not regretting that I left him. I'm the happiest that I left him. I am so excited that I left him. I tell everybody that. Honestly, I am happy that I left. I tell
that's
everybody
good.
that, and I'm happy because I think all of that already prepped me for days,
Mm, yeah.
and strengthened me for what is
Mm-hmm.
to come ahead. Some things happen, I pull my hair, I cry, I don't speak to God for some time, and then
Mm,
I go back again. Like, okay, I'm sorry. I should have, thought about it this way and that
yeah.
way, you know. So it's all in the process of coping. I
Mm,
think the most important thing is to be able to be vulnerable to yourself.
that's true.
If you're
That's
not
true.
vulnerable to yourself, you're living a superficial life.
Mm,
Because a day will come, you just break down and you just be shattered. And we don't want that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate. Some people are at that point where they are so broken and basically they don't know where to start to pick up the pieces. I
Yes.
think when I started this podcast I think it was last year, our first couple of segments was about normalizing mental health. And I think I mentioned this in our first conversation that
CUD.
we, especially people from Africa, we don't take mental health seriously. I always say and actually my brother mentioned this as well. He says if you go tell somebody you have mental issues, they either have to catch you and pray for you, anoint you, pour
And
you down,
deliver you.
baptize you, or something. I think you've lost the Christ in you. That's why you have a mental issues. But I think it's high time we normalize the talks, and that was the topic for the longest. Normalizing talks around mental health. Because we, like I said from the beginning, we all go through something.
Yes, we all do.
Everybody is going through something. You may not have been able to label it this as maybe stress, anxiety, depression. You haven't been diagnosed yet, but everybody is going through
Yeah.
something and it's going to get worse. But I think if we do normalize talks around it, it's going to help people be able to stand up and say, "This is how I'm feeling." And not using myself an example. I had friends around me when I talked about how I felt. I was told I'm being too difficult. Oh, you are not forgiving enough. Oh, you need to let this go. And so when I stepped outside those situations, I asked myself, why is it that when I speak up, my
I am the
feeling or
problem.
hurt is not validated, but everybody else's is okay? And so I said to myself, well, then I don't need these people around me because I need to be listened to. When somebody comes to me and say, hey, this is how I feel, I need to validate that and find out how we can solve it. Do we need to do something around our environment? Is it something that we're eating, something in the water that's causing these things in your head?
You see, I think in the African context, we see having a mental health issue or challenge. It's not a problem; it's a condition. We
Mm-hmm.
see it as a taboo. That means you're weak. That means, like you say, if you believe in God, that means that I am not praying enough. That means I'm not going to church. That means, oh, maybe because I didn't pay my tithes last Sunday, or maybe because I didn't give enough offering. Maybe that's why God is inflicting me with this. We see it as, or maybe it's somebody in my father's household or somebody
Mm-hmm.
in my mother's household that is doing me. And that is what we were oriented to. That was what we grew up to know and to understand. However, I realized that having this condition, it's like I have a headache. It's like my tummy hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my back aches. It's like I trip and I hurt my toenails or my fingernails, or
Mm-hmm.
just like I went to the hospital and the doctor said I had this condition. So that is the way mental health is, and we really need to enlighten ourselves about it.
We do.
And the stigma in the African community, like, oh, she has depression. Oh no, they say she has bipolar. She's,
It runs in the
so
family.
it's, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
who is your husband? Oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
married. What? You don't know their family? No, what's wrong with their family? Oh, they have craziness in their family.
Mm-hmm.
People are mad.
Mm-hmm.
So, that alone will make you to think twice if you want to go to therapy. And even if you go, it's hush hush,
Yeah.
you know. And I want to say this, and I think I'm being intentional with my words now, unapologetically. And that's because of, growing up in an African household, seeing the way your parent relationship is, seeing the way every other person relationship is around you. Everybody has a mental health condition, whether by inheritance or by genetics. We all have mental health conditions. A boy that is raised in a household where the father does not know how to say thank you,
Mm.
where the father will always say, I am in charge, where the father will always say, what I say is what goes in this
The
house. If I
final.
say
Mm-hmm.
jump, you jump. You don't question me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, the boy don't do anything. It's the girls that's doing it. We are breeding narcissistic personalities.
Mm-hmm.
We are breeding control freak men. We are
Mm-hmm.
breeding men that feel challenged when their woman is outspoken, when their woman is ambitious, when their woman tries to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
We are not breeding a well rounded man that feels like, oh, okay, she got it. I'm good. What did the Bible says? The Bible says we are one. So if your wife is able to go out and do the things that you're supposed to do, but you're not doing it, you as the man should be appreciative and not feel undermined or feel intimidated. But that's the men we are raising in some African homes,
Mm.
or most African homes, because that's what their father knows, and that's what the father is handing over to them, and that's what they are passing on to their children.
That's true.
And the children is watching you, not even acknowledging your wife.
Mm.
And the children sees the mother doing the shopping, going grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, taking trash out, doing all of this. What do you think the boy will grow up to be? And the woman, of course, she will be depressed, but she will not be able to voice it because guess what?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do as a girl.
Yeah. The kitchen is your office.
That's it. So you do an 8-hour shift outside of the home. You
Mm-hmm.
come home. You no, you start from the home. You wake up, let's say 5 a.m. You start by doing everything, cleaning the house, doing breakfast, getting kids ready for school, getting yourself ready for work, and all of that. Then you go back to work from, let's say, 7 or 8 to 5 at the most. And
Mm-hmm.
then you get back home. On your way from work office, you're stopping at the grocery store. You're getting back home. And you know how we cook African food?
Mm-hmm.
We don't
That's
toss it in
another
the
two,
oven.
3 hours. Mm-hmm.
We don't toss it in the oven. When I was married, my my children's father would tell me, um, there was a time he doesn't eat. No, you can't cook rice and put it in the fridge. You have to cook rice every time I want to eat rice. Yeah, no, you don't do that. There was a time you will not eat the soup if the soup is more than a certain number of days old. So that means every day I have to cook.
Mm.
If I make eba and it does not finish it and I put it in the fridge, that's it. Is either you trash it or I'm eating it. And if you make food and the food is not up to its standard, what do you mean I'm not eating this food? Okay, I'm sorry. What do you want to eat? You have to apologize for cooking and not cooking it to the consistency that he wants. And so you have to go back to the kitchen and do it. He had forgotten that I did 8 hours somewhere.
Wow.
And upon the 8 hours, I still have part-time therapy jobs that I have to do.
Mm,
Clients are waiting for me. My weekends are not my weekends because I have to do part-time therapy. Mind you, the kids will come to mommy. Oh, mommy, we want this at school. Mommy, we want that. Mommy, this. Mommy, that. So we have been conditioned to a situation where the husband's money belongs to him and his own the extended family, not the nuclear family. So when a man is raised in an environment like that, and you have a son that's looking up to a man, a father figure like that, what do you think we are breeding?
mm,
The women are tired. The women are frustrated. But we don't have a voice because when you talk, you're not being respectful enough.
mm. Yeah.
Oh, I remember then my in-laws would say, oh, she's spoiled. Oh, she is not a good wife. She's not a good girl. She is this, she is. They call you names. And they did call me name, and that's not new to me. One of my name that my former father-in-law christened me was Ruth. He called me Ruth because when my husband said jump, I would jump.
That's good.
You know,
Well, that's a compliment.
it's a
At least,
compliment, but
yes.
in a negative way from their perspective. You
Mm,
know, so it's a lot going on in the African home that we have to start revamping. We have to go
yeah.
back to the drawing table,
Yeah.
especially our generation, and try to bring up our children in a way that will appreciate women,
Mm,
the women in their lives.
mm,
You know, so if you're raised in a home like that, you want to tell me that child will not have a mental health problem? But guess what? They don't see it as having a mental health problem because that's the norm.
mm,
So if we see it from the perspective of, nope, that's not appropriate. That is not even the way the Bible said a child should be raised. That is not even the way the Bible said a man, the head of the house, should be.
mhm,
And it's so unfortunate that you will see a lot of people that says, I don't believe in God, I don't go to church. They treat you better than those people that profess to know how God said that the man should be.
mhm,
It's unfortunate. So we have to start talking about this and normalizing it. It's okay. You don't have to have a diagnosis of depression. You can have a diagnosis of adjustment disorder, unspecified. We don't know what's going on, but there's
mhm.
difficulty adjusting to situations that you're going through at this time. And it's okay. It's okay for you to experience depression and accept it. It's okay.
Yeah.
David in the Bible experienced depression. Joseph experienced depression. So it's okay for us. And I think that's where we have issues because as African, we don't accept it.
Mhm,
You know, how even as Christians, we say, oh no, I reject it. Yes, you are rejecting it, but it is not rejecting you.
mhm. It's still there.
It's still there. You can reject it all you want, but it
Mhm,
is not rejecting you. Until you
mhm,
face it will not reject you.
mhm. It's still there. It's still
Yeah.
there.
It's I tell people recently my daughter and I were talking and she was just and I'm so glad that I have that relationship with my kids.
Mhm.
And she verbalized I feel suicidal. Every other mother will be like, hey, why would you do this? No, but I have to find out the root cause of your
Yeah.
thoughts. Where did it come from?
Mm,
What were you doing? What did you eat?
mhm.
What did you think of? You have to be like an investigator. You don't just have to shout, oh no, God forbid. I
I
reject
know.
it
I
for you.
know.
I rebuke it. Some things are not rebukable.
Mhm.
Some things are not rejectable. We over spiritualize everything and we think there is always this demon that's following us. I'm not undermining that it exists, but
It
that
does like this.
that is not the case when it comes to mental health.
Mm.
And yes, could it be spiritual attack? It's possible. But look, do your best. Let God see that yes, he's taking a step or she's taking
Mm-hmm.
a step, and I will
Mm-hmm.
support that step, you know. So it's okay for us to come out and say, yes, I need help. Yes, this is how I'm feeling. Some people don't even have a diagnosis. We cannot even diagnose it. It is just unspecified. We cannot diagnose it. We don't know what exactly it is, but I just need to talk with someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we should come out of this shell of this African women like, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay. No, you're not okay.
And going back to talking about diagnosis, I think that's one of the fears as well. We don't want to be labeled. We don't want to be under this label of, oh, I'm depressed or under this. But as you mentioned, I think I did a talk on TikTok a couple of weeks ago about what the Bible says about depression. God has given us the wisdom to be able. That's why we have counselors, we have doctors.
Yes,
They're not there just to be there. God gave us this wisdom for these specialties for us to go to them and seek help. And
exactly.
so, like you mentioned, some people. I think I gave an example that I know when Jesus was going on the cross, he went through some kind of anxiety because he didn't just go and just. He said his sweat turned into blood. What
Yes,
kind of stress and anxiety is that? And so, being human, these things comes to us. As long as you live, you're going to go through some things. And as I mentioned, everybody goes through all these differently.
yeah,
Your way of handling stress, we may be going through the same thing, but your way of handling is going to be different from mine. Some
exactly.
of us, we may have to seek special help.
Yeah,
Some of us, we can go through it by ourselves. Some of us, we need to speak it out. But as you mentioned, it's very important that we first acknowledge that we are human.
yeah,
And these things, regardless of your status, whether financially, spiritually, or whatever, you're going to experience at one point in time in your life.
absolutely.
And when you acknowledge that, you'll be able to, oh, okay, so I don't have to handle this by myself. Oh, okay.
Mm,
So it's normal to go through this. Oh, okay. So
exactly.
there's help out there for this. So I
Yes,
need to go seek it.
there is help. Yes, there is help out there. And I tell people, yes, you can talk with your pastor, but is your pastor a trained mental health specialist or a
Mhm,
trained mental health counselor? There is a difference when you go for spiritual counseling and
mhm,
when you go for mental health counseling. It is two poles apart. The pastor will counsel you from the spiritual perspective and tell you to pray more.
mhm,
A mental health counselor will think of it as either it's a psychotherapy or a cognitive behavioral issue or a dialectical behavioral issue, or if it's something we can do EMDR on. If it's a psychotherapy issue, that means we have to go to your past, we have to go to your childhood. A lot of trauma growing up in an African home. I tell people when some people come and they talk and I listen to them, and I tell people, the people aren't seeing trauma. Growing up in an African home is traumatic on its own. On top of that, you watch your parents separating, divorcing. These days, we even make it open with divorce. In those days, the parents will be there, but they are separated. And
mhm,
the kids are going through the torture because the father is not probably providing in the home, not talking to the mother, going about doing whatever they want to do. And the mother is in the home crying, struggling to keep the home together, struggling to provide for the kids. You're observing all of this, you're seeing all of this in the home. That alone is traumatic. A child that experienced all of that, bottled it up, and then go out there, and you say the child is aggressive, the
mhm.
child is mean, or the child is misbehaving, would you blame the child? That's why you have to go to the background.
Mm-hmm.
Where did it start from? Tell
Mm-hmm.
me about your family. Tell me about your parents' relationship. Tell me about your relationship with each parent and around and outside of the home. All of this is to help you see. It's not to tell you what to do, but to help you understand where this issue is coming from. And after realizing all of that, okay, now I know where it started from. Now I know what triggered this behavior, why I am the way I am. How do I help it?
Mm-hmm.
How do I work towards this? I was talking with a friend some times ago, and I was reading the Bible, and it just jumped out to me where Paul was saying that by the renewal of our minds,
Mm-hmm.
that we should renew our minds. And I sat down there, and in therapy, I work a lot with CBT. I love using the CBT technique. And that is just cognitive behavioral therapy. And what is cognitive? Cognition. You're renewing your mind, you're
Mm-hmm.
renewing the way you see that problem. I tell my kids, you don't see, my son would say, he's the youngest, like, I don't know who to believe, mom. I told him, I said, you don't have to believe anybody. You don't have to believe me if I tell you anything. You don't have to believe daddy if daddy tells you anything. But when you are at that stage, when you are able to process everything, you will filter and take whatever you want to believe.
Mm.
But I will tell you the truth. I will tell you what happened. I will tell you how it happens. It is left for you to believe or not to believe. But I will not lie. I will not mince words. I will say it in ways you will understand it. And that's something else we do. We
Yeah.
hide things away from our kids. We're not showing our kids it's okay to be vulnerable. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're vulnerable, this is how you cope.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why
Yeah.
a lot of people will say, what happens in this house stays in this house. Yes, it stays in this house, but we talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to go outside of this house. Yes, we're taking it outside of this house because that's where we'll get help from.
Yeah.
So it's really important for us as we are cognitively renewing our mind spiritually. We should be renewing our mind physically and renewing our body and our emotions. Our emotional health is very important. Spiritual health is very important. If you're not emotionally sound, it will impact your spiritual life. When my issue of divorce and all of that just started, there are times I couldn't even pray. I could not even pray. It's very important. I couldn't pray all those times. I couldn't even read the Bible. I can't stay focused.
Mm.
So my emotional health, it's telling me something. Your emotional health has to be stable for you to be able to come before the Lord. It has to be stable for you to be able to renew your mind
Mm-hmm.
and your thoughts. It has to be stable for you to know how to relate with your children or your friends or people around you. So it is very important that we're in a place where our mind is sound. Emotionally, we may not be 100%, but at
Mm-hmm.
least we're 85% or 90. Nobody is 100% emotionally,
That's
or at
true.
least 85%. you know so if we undermine it and just feel like, no, I'll be fine, you hear a lot of women dropping dead. Your blood pressure just shoot up and you just feel like, oh no, I'll be fine, my children.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how
Mm-hmm.
African parents are. Oh no, my children, you drop dead.
I know. I
the
know.
children will, the children will leave.
Mm.
I don't care how old the child is, take care of you. If you
You
don't
can't
take care
talk
of
on an
you,
ethical.
you cannot.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't take care of you, God help you to live long enough to take care of the kids. In the airplane, when you're traveling and the air hostess is, educating you about safety and all of that, they tell you, save yourself first. Even if you have an infant or a toddler, save yourself first before you save
Mm-hmm.
that infant.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not saved, you cannot save
You can't
anybody.
save anyone. That's true. That's very important.
It's very, very important. We
Mm-hmm.
cannot, I don't know. I think being enlightened and educated enough to understand we don't have a lot of African women out there are very educated.
Mm-hmm.
So we should not let anybody rob us of this opportunity to expose ourselves to mental health
Mm.
and understanding and accepting it as a condition. A
Yeah.
condition is not permanent. It is not a disease
Mm.
that I have to manage. It is a condition that if I work collaboratively with my therapy and I'm consistent with my therapist, it will alleviate, it
Mm-hmm.
will lift. But if not, it will become a disease. I tell people it starts from trauma, and then trauma, it extends to depression.
Mm-hmm.
From there, it graduates to bipolar. And then from there, God help you if you don't have personality disorder. And then from there, it goes into schizophrenic. And that's
Mm.
when we say, okay, now you're cuckoo,
Mm.
you know. But even then, it's a gradual thing. If you don't
Yeah.
nip it at the bud, then
It's going to grow.
it's going to grow.
Well, we are going to end on that note. That has been, I know we're going to deep into therapy and all that, but I think that should be a separate topic altogether. I am hoping, actually, I like the last statement you made that there are lots of educated women and we shouldn't be robbed of that. I think this is what I'm going to say. Don't let your status, whether it's social, whatever status you have, don't let it influence your decision on seeking help.
Yes, so that you won't be a statistic.
Yes, you are not above anything.
Yeah,
Don't let that stop you. And like she said, you may be walking around superwoman and fall out, and that will be the end of you. We walk around for the sake of this, for the sake of that, especially those of us in the social services world. We
yeah.
want to give, 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 and save everyone, and we forget
Not
about
us.
ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
So I am so glad that self care has become number one thing in our code of ethics now. That we take care of ourselves. We
Yes,
put
and we
ourselves.
take mental days off.
Yes, when
Yeah,
you need time off, you take it.
take
Because
it.
that job that you're killing yourself for before you even buried, the job is already posted and they fill in the position.
Absolutely.
The children
Absolutely.
that you are so worried and want to take care of them, when you are
Another
gone,
woman will
what's
come
going
and be
to
their
happen to them?
mother. Another
That
woman will
that
just come.
marriage that you've given so much and you're trying to save somebody's
Mhm,
son. Before you are
mhm.
buried, he's married and moved on.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
very, and it goes both ways. It goes for men and women as well. Let us take care of ourselves,
yeah,
especially mental health.
yeah.
Like she mentioned, it starts very small. Don't ignore those small signs. If some, and actually it goes for our physical health as well. When something,
Mm,
if you feel like something is not right, look into it because you never know. If it's nothing, then it's nothing.
yeah,
But if you keep
yeah.
postponing and, oh, let me wait and see, Africans, oh, let me go pray, oh, let me go seek the traditional this, oh, let me
I
go,
know.
you end up cutting your life short and losing out on the things that God has. I always say God has given us wisdom and we shouldn't be fools
We
and
shouldn't be.
think God is going to protect us. He's giving you the wisdom to
Yeah.
make decisions.
We are wrapping up, but I remember in church today, my pastor said something. He said that God will tell you this is what you should do, but
Mhm.
He will not make the decision for you.
That's right.
It is left for you to make the decision. And if God has told you this is what you should do, and you decided to not do the contrary, and if that contrary is going to kill you, He will not save you
You live the
because He has
consequence.
told you, yes, choose life so that you may live. But if you choose to choose death, you're on your own.
Yeah. You live the
So we shouldn't,
consequence.
yeah, we
Yeah.
shouldn't take the mercy of God for granted.
Yeah. That's so true. But thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you for having
I
me.
know we need to do this again and talk more about therapy. I would love to talk about normalizing talks about mental health. and also focusing on therapy, because I think one of the things that you hear most people complain about is the cost of therapy. Because of the cost, they don't want to go. They feel like, I'm going to talk to a stranger. What if they take my message out there? Of course, you explained that there are specific therapists
Confidentiality.
and what they do. Going to your pastor is going to give you a spiritual guideline. Going to a mental health specialist is going to help you find ways. If you need coping skills, of course, you're going to get the coping skills. If you need medication, they're going to advise you.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to get diagnosis and next thing they put you on medication. It
No,
doesn't happen that way.
no.
So I think we need to educate our community on mental health, diagnosis, treatment, and all those things as well. But I think that should be another topic. So again, thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you for
If you
having
can
me.
share your platform again, so we'll be able to follow you and look you up if we need to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. My platform is with podcast on Google and everywhere and anywhere you listen to your podcast. Single Again with LFA and Bab. We upload our video every Wednesday of the week. So we just shoot out very hot topics that we discuss, and we want people to communicate. We have a Facebook page. It's also Single Again with LFA and Bab, and Mother's Body, Raising Multicultural Children in the United States is Aaron's Place on Facebook. Um, like, share, subscribe, and follow us. Even on YouTube, we have our channel, Mother's Body with Omolola. That's on YouTube. And subscribe, share, love us, like us. Let's build a community together. Same thing with Sewa. Let's all build this community
Yeah,
together and
let's do
empower
that.
ourselves.
When I
Yeah,
upload this video on Facebook, I'll tag your Facebook page with it as well, so they'll
thank
know
you.
who you are. But
Thank
again,
you.
thank you so much for coming tonight. I hope we get to do this again some other time.
I hope so too, soon.
All right, thank you.